RoboCop, 1987, is a classic science fiction action film directed by Paul Verhoeven, written by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner. It was produced by Orion Pictures and became one of the most iconic films of the 1980s, combining elements of dystopian themes, cyberpunk aesthetics, and sharp social commentary. Plot. Set in a near-future Detroit, the film centers on a society grappling with high crime rates, corporate corruption, and political instability. The city is on the brink of collapse, and a powerful megacorporation, OCP, has essentially taken control of the city's police force. The company, eager to privatize law enforcement, develops a cyborg law enforcer, RoboCop, a fusion of man and machine, programmed to uphold justice. The protagonist, Alex Murphy, is a dedicated Detroit police officer who is brutally murdered in the line of duty by a gang. His body is then reassembled by OCP scientists, and he is transformed into RoboCop, a highly effective, crime-fighting machine. However, as RoboCop's human memories begin to resurface, he struggles to reconcile his human emotions with his mechanical programming. As RoboCop seeks justice and battles crime, he also confronts the corrupt corporate executives at OCP, including the villainous Dick Jones, who is running a dangerous and illegal robot program called ED-209. The film explores themes of identity, humanity, corporate greed, and the ethical implications of technology. Cast: Peter Weller as Alex Murphy, Nancy Allen as Officer Ann Lewis, Ronnie Cox as Dick Jones, Kurtwood Smith as Clarence Boddicker. Peter Weller, who played RoboCop, had a difficult time performing in the bulky, heavy suit. The suit weighed around 40 pounds and had limited mobility, which made it hard for him to sit, move, or even see clearly. Weller had to undergo intense physical training to adjust to the suit and make RoboCop's movements look natural. Despite the discomfort, Weller fully committed to the role and even wore the suit during scenes where he wasn't in front of the camera to stay in character. The RoboCop suit was incredibly complex and took hours to get into. It was made up of multiple pieces, including a helmet, chest plate, gloves, and boots. The costume had to be tailored perfectly to Weller's body, and there were many design challenges because the suit had to be both functional and visually imposing. Rob Bottin, the special effects artist, also worked on The Thing 1982 and made the suit a mix of practical effects and prosthetics. However, it was so difficult to move in that Peter Weller once joked he felt like he was in a mobile iron lung. The giant ED-209 robot was one of the film's major special effects, and it was all done with practical models, animatronics, and stop-motion animation. The robot was incredibly complex to operate, with a team of puppeteers controlling it from inside. In fact, when the ED-209 first debuted in the movie, it actually malfunctioned during filming. The robot fell down the stairs because its creators hadn't fully anticipated how heavy it would be. RoboCop's gun holster is a bit of an Easter egg for moviegoers. The gun holster, which is located on the back of RoboCop's leg, is never really shown clearly in the movie. It's actually a mechanical part of the suit, and because of the suit's bulkiness and Weller's limited mobility, they had to do some creative camera work to make it look like RoboCop was pulling out his gun. It became iconic in its own right, but the mechanism to holster the gun was so complex that it was often a practical challenge to film. The scene where Alex Murphy is brutally murdered was one of the most shocking and intense sequences in the film. The filmmakers pushed the limits of practical effects to make the scene as horrifying as possible, using squibs, small explosive devices to create realistic blood squirt effects. The violence is so over the top that it borders on absurdity, and it's intended to be both shocking and satirical. Director Paul Verhoeven later said that the scene was designed to show how the system, in this case, OCP, had little regard for human life, echoing the dehumanizing corporate theme of the movie. Peter Weller, despite enduring hours in the suit, was committed to portraying RoboCop as authentically as possible. However, he later revealed that the physical strain of wearing the suit for long hours caused him to suffer from back pain and headaches. The suit restricted his vision and mobility, so much so that he would often have to memorize his lines ahead of time to avoid fumbling them. After filming, he even sought treatment from chiropractors to address the lingering effects of the suit. Production budget, approximately $13 million. While not huge by Hollywood standards, this budget was enough to create the impressive practical effects, the RoboCop suit, and the action sequences that helped the film stand out. Domestic U.S. box office gross, around $53.4 million. This was a strong showing, especially considering the modest production budget. The film earned another $10.6 million internationally, bringing its total worldwide gross to about $64 million. Positive reviews. Many critics praised RoboCop for its groundbreaking special effects, especially considering its relatively modest budget. The practical effects, animatronics, and the RoboCop suit were ahead of their time. The action scenes were intense and thrilling, and the film's futuristic aesthetic made it stand out in the genre of 80s action films. RoboCop was widely lauded for its biting social commentary. The film's critique of corporate greed, the militarization of police forces, and the commodification of violence in the media resonated with critics who appreciated its depth beneath the surface of a typical action movie. Despite the challenges of wearing the bulky suit, Weller's performance as RoboCop was often praised. His ability to portray a human struggling with his mechanical identity was one of the film's standout qualities. The antagonists, including the corrupt corporate villains and the sadistic gang members led by Clarence Boddicker, were also well received. Their larger-than-life personas added to the film's sense of over-the-top action and dark humor. Negative reviews. The extreme violence in RoboCop was a major point of contention. Some critics felt the film went too far, with its brutal and gory scenes, such as the death of Alex Murphy and the destruction of various criminals. While others saw this as part of the film's satirical tone, some felt the violence was gratuitous and detracted from the overall message. RoboCop was often called uneasy and conflicted in tone. Some critics felt the film struggled to balance its elements of satire and its grim, action-driven plot. The juxtaposition of humor, violence, and corporate critique was disorienting to some viewers, and the dark humor didn't always land as intended. A few critics felt that while the movie had a great concept, the pacing could be uneven at times. The film alternates between moments of bleak intensity and comedic commercials or media segments, which some found jarring. Some reviewers thought that the ED-209 robot, which served as a key antagonist early in the movie, was more of a visual gag than a serious threat. Though the ED-209 malfunction during the boardroom scene became one of the most memorable moments in the film, some critics felt that the robot was more of a comedy device than a real challenge to RoboCop.